It had been 2 weeks, 2 endless, aching weeks since I'd seen my little girl. I counted every day by the sound of her voice in my memory. That soft, shaky, "Mom," she used to say when thunder scared her at night. But since my parents took control, since they decided I wasn't fit to raise her alone, I hadn't heard it once. That day, I came back early from my shift at the diner, uniform still on, fingers cracked from scrubbing pans, shoes half soaked from the rain outside. My heart pounded as I opened the front door to my parents' house. I could hear laughter, their laughter, and my daughter, Lily, giggling softly somewhere inside. I stepped into the living room. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video. She was there, my 6-year-old sitting on the carpet playing with my dad's old chessboard. Her small fingers were tracing the wooden pawns. She looked up, eyes lighting up like she'd just seen sunlight after a storm. "Mom!" she gasped, jumping to her feet. I dropped my bag right there and reached out, my throat locked, tears stinging before I could even speak. I bent down, arms wide open, but before I could even touch her, something slammed into my ribs, a hard kick, a shock of pain ripping through me so deep I couldn't breathe. I fell backward, hands shaking. My father stood over me, his face twisted with contempt. "Don't touch her," he barked. "Trash doesn't deserve love." Lily froze. My little girl's lip trembled. My mom came around the corner, carrying a coffee cup, eyes cold as steel. "She doesn't need hugs from you," she said flatly. "You should thank us for raising her right. You'd just ruin her again." I tried to get up, my arms trembling, my knees scraped against the floor. "She's my daughter," I whispered, my voice breaking. Dad snorted. "She's ours now. You signed her over, remember? You couldn't even keep a job long enough to buy her shoes." Lily started crying, quietly at first, then harder. Her tiny fists clutched at her shirt as she looked between me and them, confused, scared. "Grandpa, don't hurt Mommy," she screamed. He laughed. My mother laughed. Their laughter filled that room like poison, drowning out my daughter's sobs. Something inside me cracked that moment, not just from the pain in my ribs, but something deeper. I stayed on the floor, listening to them mock me, letting their words burn holes through my chest. "You always come back here pretending you're somebody," my mom said. "But you're nothing. You'll always crawl back. That's what trash does." My hands curled into fists against the carpet. I didn't cry. I didn't even answer. I looked at Lily, her little face streaked with tears, her breath shaking. And I realized something. They weren't just breaking me anymore. They were trying to break her, too. So I smiled through the pain. Just a small, strange smile that made my father frown for the first time that night. That's when I decided they'd never laugh again. Not the same way. Not after what was coming. The next morning, I woke up with bruises blooming across my back and ribs, purple and dark like rotten fruit. Every breath hurt. Every move reminded me that in that house, even the air wasn't mine. Lily had tried to sneak into my room in the middle of the night, tiptoeing like a little ghost, carrying her blanket. But Mom caught her at the doorway. "Go back!" she hissed, yanking her by the arm. "That thing doesn't deserve your comfort." I heard the small whimper. The sound gutted me more than the chair ever could. When I opened my eyes that morning, the sun felt wrong. Too bright for a house full of monsters. My father's voice echoed from downstairs, talking loudly on the phone about his perfect granddaughter who'd soon inherit everything that mattered. I sat up slowly, every rib screaming, and stared at the peeling wallpaper. The same wallpaper I'd stared at as a child whenever their shouting filled the house. The same pattern I used to trace with my fingers when I prayed they'd stop fighting, that they'd see me. But they never did. This time, I wasn't praying. I was planning. I got up, quietly opened the window, and stared outside, at the rusted swing in the backyard, the one Dad had built for Mia, my sister, and never let me touch. Lily used to play there until Mom said, "Don't let her near that. She'll break it. just like her mother breaks everything. The swing creaked now, empty, moving slightly with the morning wind. I thought about every time they'd taken something from me, my room, my childhood, my dignity, and now, my daughter. But monsters like them have patterns, predictable ones, and I knew every move they'd make before they did. That day, I went to work like nothing happened. My co-workers at the diner asked if I was okay. I smiled and said I'd just tripped. I'd learned to lie convincingly. At lunch, I slipped into the back office and made a call to someone my parents didn't know about, Mrs. Hayes, a retired social worker who used to come by when I was a teenager, back when Mom's discipline had gotten too loud for the neighbors to ignore. "Clara," her voice cracked with recognition. "Are you safe?" "Not really," I whispered. "But I'm getting there." I told her everything. The bruises, the kick, how they used my daughter like bait for control. She didn't interrupt, just breathed heavy on the other end of the line, like she'd heard this kind of hell before. Then she said, "Record everything. Don't fight them in anger. Let them show who they are." That night, I did exactly that. When I returned home, Dad was sitting in his recliner, TV blasting some reality show. Mom was folding laundry, pretending peace lived here. And Lily was in the corner, coloring quietly, drawing a picture of a house with a big red door and two stick figures holding hands. I realized they were her and me. I turned my phone on, camera facing down in my pocket. "Mom," I said softly, "why did you hit me yesterday?" Her head snapped up. "Excuse me?" "I just want to understand," I said, voice trembling. "Why does refusing to clean Mia's room mean you get to break my back?" Dad laughed before she could answer. "Maybe if you cleaned your life up, we wouldn't have to." "Say it again," I whispered. He sneered. "Pain teaches faster. It's called parenting. You should try it sometime instead of pretending you're a mother." Lily looked up then, her crayon stilling. Mom scoffed. "Don't talk back to your father. You're lucky he didn't break your jaw too. Now stop corrupting your daughter with your drama." I could feel my blood pounding in my ears, but I didn't yell. I didn't even move. Just let the phone capture every word. That became my pattern. Every night for a week, I recorded them. Every insult, every shove, every time they called Lily ungrateful trash's child, and every morning I pretended I didn't care. I made breakfast, packed lunches, brushed Lily's hair before school, and all the while I built a file, one that could break them in ways they couldn't imagine. Then, the night before it all came crashing down, Mom lost her temper again. Lily had spilled juice on Mia's old sweater, the one Mom still worshipped like a relic. Mom grabbed her by the arm and screamed, "You're just like your mother, clumsy, stupid, useless." That was the moment I stepped in front of her. "Don't you dare touch her again." Dad stood up. "Are you threatening your mother?" "No," I said quietly. "I'm promising her." He stepped closer, chest puffed, his breath thick with beer. "You forget whose roof you live under." I smiled. "Oh, I remember. That's why I'm burning it down." For the first time in my life, I saw fear flicker in his eyes. Just a flicker. Small, uncertain. But it was there. I walked past them, holding Lily's hand, and left that house. I didn't slam the door. I didn't shout. I just let silence speak for me. Because tomorrow, that silence was going to roar. When the morning came, they got the visit they never expected. Social services, 2 officers, a woman with a clipboard who looked exactly like judgment in human form. And as my father's smirk vanished, I stood outside on the curb holding Lily, watching through the window. Their voices went from angry to pleading in seconds. My recordings, my bruises, my daughter's tearful statements, it all came together like a storm they couldn't run from, and I didn't have to lift a finger. They destroyed themselves. When they finally came outside, pale and trembling, Mom said, "How could you do this to us?" I looked at her, really looked. And for the first time, she looked small. "I didn't do this," I said. "You did." Lily tugged at my sleeve then, whispering, "Mommy, can we go home now?" I nodded, pressing my forehead to hers. "Yeah, baby, We finally can. But as we walked away, I glanced back once. Dad was standing on the porch, his hands shaking, his lips moving like he wanted to yell but couldn't. Mom was crying into her hands. And it hit me. They were learning what pain really felt like, not the kind they gave, the kind that teaches, the kind they said would make me stronger. They were right. It did. It had been 3 months since that morning. The one where my parents' faces went pale as the police led them away from their perfect suburban home, the house they'd built on other people's suffering. I should have felt free immediately, but healing isn't that simple. Pain doesn't dissolve when justice starts. It lingers in the bones, whispering in your dreams. For weeks, Lily would wake up in the middle of the night, crying softly. "They're going to take me again," she'd whisper, trembling. I'd hold her close, pressing her ear to my chest so she could hear my heartbeat. "They can't," I'd tell her. "No one can hurt us anymore." But I could tell she didn't believe it yet, not fully. How could she? She'd seen her mother kicked, mocked, broken, all while the people who did it laughed like it was a joke. I moved us into a small apartment on the edge of town. Nothing fancy, 1 bedroom, squeaky floors, thin walls. But for the first time, every sound belonged to us. No shouting, no footsteps full of threat, just peace. Still, the silence felt strange at first. I'd catch myself flinching at nothing, waiting for a door to slam, a voice to curse. Trauma trains you like that. But slowly, that house began to heal me. I'd hear Lily humming in the kitchen while drawing on the fridge with magnets. She'd sing little songs about Mommy's hugs and new days. Every time I heard her laugh, it rebuilt a part of me that they'd tried to destroy. Then one morning, an envelope slid under my door. No return address. Just my name in my mother's handwriting. My stomach dropped before I even opened it. Inside was a letter, or at least her version of one. "Clara, you've shamed this family. The neighbors talk. Your father can't even walk into the grocery store without whispers. You've ruined your own blood. You've taken your daughter from the people who could have made her something. You think you've won, but you've cursed yourself. You'll regret what you did to us." No apology, no remorse. Just the same poison, written in ink instead of spit. I folded it carefully and slipped it into a box where I kept everything from that chapter of my life. The recordings, the bruised photos, the medical slips, the note from Mrs. Hayes that said, "You did the right thing." That box became my reminder, a museum of cruelty. But it wasn't meant for me. It was meant for them. Because while they sat in their house stripped of custody rights, social respect, and the control they worshipped, they had no idea that the real punishment hadn't even started yet. See, I never wanted revenge that screamed. I wanted revenge that lingered. The kind that made them choke every time they heard laughter that wasn't theirs. So when the local paper ran a feature about Parents of the Year for social awareness, I submitted an anonymous story. Not about me, but about them. About a couple who broke their own daughter and called it discipline. About a little girl who had to comfort her bleeding mother while her grandparents laughed. It wasn't sensationalized, just the truth. And truth, when it's finally spoken, has a way of finding its audience. Within a week, that story spread through town like wildfire. Everyone knew who it was about, even without names. Their church attendance stopped. Their friends cut them off. Neighbors crossed the street when they saw them. And one night, my dad called. Unknown number. I picked up without speaking. His voice cracked. Not angry this time, but hollow. "Clara, what have you done to us?" I said nothing, just listened to the silence on his end, the silence that once belonged to me. Then he whispered, "Your mother hasn't left her room in days. She keeps asking if Lily will ever forgive her." Finally, I spoke. She shouldn't ask for forgiveness. She should ask what it feels like. He didn't answer, just breathed, shaky, uneven. And then the line went dead. That was the last time I ever heard his voice. Weeks later, I got another letter. This one from the same return address, but this time the handwriting trembled. "Clara, we saw you and Lily in the park last week. She looks happy. You both do. We finally understand what we did. We can't fix it, but we can live knowing what we've lost. I read it twice, then tore it up, because I wasn't interested in their realization. They'd spent their whole lives laughing at my pain. Now, they'd spend the rest of theirs trying to forget the sound of mine. That was their punishment, not jail, not shame, but living every single day knowing they could have had love and destroyed it instead. And as for me, I finally stopped flinching. One evening, Lily ran into my arms at the park, giggling, holding a wildflower she'd picked from the grass. "It's for you, Mommy," she said. I knelt down, smiling as the sun dipped behind her, bathing everything in gold. "You know what, sweetheart?" I whispered. "That's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen." And when she laughed, that pure, unbroken sound, it hit me. That's the difference between them and me. They broke things to feel powerful. I built something to feel alive. Their faces went pale when they realized they'd lost control. Mine glowed when I realized I'd finally found peace. And this time, I let myself laugh, not out of spite, but freedom. Because sometimes the quietest revenge isn't vengeance at all. It's happiness that can't be taken away. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video.